Meet a family, Bobby Johnson, Leslie Locketts, who are married, and their son Bailey. You won't find any white picket fences, 2.5 children, well, you know the stereotypical family story. You see, he's black and Baptist, she's white and Jewish. He's 63, she's 44. And together they have a 3.5-year-old son.
My youngest daughter, she didn't like the idea of me marrying a white woman. She didn't care who it was. And also, I think like my kids were like a lot of other kids that are from divorced families. They always, I think, had in the back of their mind that one day me and their mother would get back together, you know, even though that was not a reality.
My dad was very relaxed and very accepting. I think my mom was a little more nervous, and I know my grandmother was still alive then. I know my grandmother was nervous, and I sort of avoided the issue to her because I knew my grandmother always told me oil and water don't mix.
While the Bobby Johnson of yesterday could be described as a street poet, activist, ladies' man, and best dressed of Clarissa Street, the Bobby Johnson of today feels more comfortable describing himself simply as a poet, counselor at the Norris Clinic, and proud father of 5 children.
When Blair was alive, I had 5 children from my first marriage. And then after Blair died, I had 4 children. And then in 1988, my present wife and I had a son who is now 3.5 years old. So I got 5 again. And talking about karma and what goes around comes around, in a way, I really grieved the loss of Blair. But then I saw that my youngest son, Bailey, was sort of like, to me, was a replacement and was a gift from God to replace the son I lost. In fact, Bailey's name, the reason it begins with a B, is because we wanted it some way to connect with Blair.
Do you think does he have a lot of Blair's characteristics or anything?
Yeah, he sure does.
Does he?
Yeah. Yeah, he does, amazingly so.
In what way?
Well, when Blair was his age, Blair had a really abundance of energy. And it used to show itself, one way it used to show itself was like on his little tricycle. He would get on his tricycle and he would tear all around. The place we lived at the time was the Hanover Housing Project. He would tear all around that housing project, round and round there, and never tire. And he was always into something. He was always curious. So, you know, sometimes I catch myself calling Bailey Blair, and then I have to, oh, wait a minute, I mean Bailey. But yeah, he's very much like him in that sense.
Can you describe the last 20 days when Blair came home to die, to be with his family?
Yeah, I can, because I remember that very well. I was working out here at Norris, and Blair was in Highland Hospital, which is right down South Avenue, and I would go there after work and spend time with him, and my other family members would be there. And when I published a book in 1991, I wrote a poem, sort of a story poem that talked about it. In fact, I'll read part of it. March 20, Blair admitted to Highland, tired, run down, frail. I have a slight cold, he understated. Pneumonia, a rare version, I feared. AIDS virus, now it makes sense. His strange, vague ailments, his drastic loss of weight and energy, his sudden return home from the apple to die among his family, surrounded by love and acceptance. Your son has AIDS.
How did his death affect your writing? Did it?
Oh, it affected my writing in a very major way. In fact, I started writing poetry in 1968, and I wrote a lot of poetry, almost daily. 1987, I was turning out a lot of poetry, And I'd never had experienced writer's block. I'd heard people talk about it, but to me it didn't mean a thing. But when Blair died, I actually, I sort of, for all intents and purposes, I didn't write anything for about a year, you know. So it affected me that much, you know.
With 2 prior marriages behind him, Bobby is perhaps at his best as a family man right now.
The basic Bobby, like I said before, is someone that's positive, thinks positively about things, a dreamer, good sense of humor, and basically a happy person. And even though he's had sad times, the basic Bobby is someone that always looks on the positive side. And sometimes I need that. I don't always look on the negative side, but I try to be, I think I'm more practical. I'm always practical, and he tends to like wait longer to do things. I tend to be sometimes, well, no, we're impulsive about different things. I think we're impulsive about different things.
Yeah, you know, I'd like to jump in on that, being positive and happy. A lot of that I owe to my mother and my old neighborhood, because I grew up in a neighborhood where a lot of people loved me in the early years of my life. And so I had a real strong foundation of the love and security and feeling good about myself and feeling that I could do things and take chances. And, you know, over the years, that has helped me a lot, and still does.
I think that's true about me too. I had a real solid childhood with very loving parents who also gave me a lot of space, let me do things that they didn't like or were afraid of, but but they didn't criticize me. You know, they let me try my wings, I guess you'd say. And I'm lucky that they're both still alive, and they're still a real stability for me.
Bobby Johnson of yesterday and Clarissa Street go hand in hand. All that remains today is now a vacant lot.
Well, let's talk about the bebop days on Clarissa Street. What was it like? What was Clarissa Street like? I know Clarissa Street as it is now. What was it like when you lived on Clarissa Street?
Oh, when I lived on Clarissa Street, it was like the center of the world. It was like, to me, it was like the Garden of Eden. It was a self-contained unit. Everything was there. Clarissa Street was the main stem. It had everything you wanted. You didn't have to leave the neighborhood. It had restaurants, barber shops, beauty parlors.
It was during these times that Bobby Johnson was known by many as a militant man.
I was called militant just because I went out and marched in the street and carried a sign and said that we wanted some kind of justice. I was called militant because I went to a bank and said we wanted to see some black people working. I was considered a militant because I said the same thing to the police department and the fire department. So because I was just doing something, I was active in the community, that would just automatically make me a militant, you know what I mean? I was standing up and speaking out.
His youngest daughter, Sabrina, 30, can't help but feel the pain that comes with divorce and remarriages.
Oh, we used to wear looking like psychedelic bell-bottom jeans together.
You guys really?
He used to come and pick me up on the weekends after him and my mother got divorced, and he would have on a pair of psychedelic bell-bottom jeans, and I would have mine. And he'd take me to RIT to go ice skating or something like that. He'd always have something to do. But it just seems as though one thing that hasn't changed about him is he's a compassionate person. But I get jealous sometimes because my father's compassionate with everybody. So then, therefore, I don't feel special like I think I should as a daughter. So I would say, oh, your dad is so nice. He's so sweet. Yeah, he's nice and sweet to everybody. You know, and I just think that a daughter should have a special place in her dad's
And
heart.
you don't think that you do?
Well, I'm sure he feels special about me, but I just don't.
You don't see
get
it?
what I want. I don't think I have it from him.
While change does not happen at the same pace for all family members, change does happen. It is clear that Bobby Johnson and family have relished these changes.
Well, yeah, I'd say we're both adventurous, and we're both flexible.
That's a
I
nice
think-
word. Wait. Is that what makes it all come together, being flexible?
Oh, I think that's part of it. One is we give each other a lot of space, both of us. We both need a lot of space. We both take a lot of space.
Yeah, I just want to hopefully bring him up to just to be comfortable with being himself and not even having to worry about that, but just to be in touch with his insides and to be a good human being and do what's good. I told my other kids when they were youngsters, I used to, my simple message to them was to get a job and stay out of jail, and if you could do that, I'd be satisfied.
What's your message to Bailey?
So same thing. You know, that would be, I would still wish that part for him, to be able to be self-sufficient and take care of himself, get an education, and hopefully stay out of jail, you know, stay alive.
Is Jenny still here?
Poem.
Oh, Daddy's going to do a poem.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's going to end with the poem.
Okay.
Okay.
This is a poem we put in Bailey's baby announcement.
Okay. This is a poem that Leslie had picked out. Okay. Poem. My God, smile on me and my folk. We ain't loaded, but we laugh a lot whenever, wherever we find each other. We whisper and giggle, scrutinize for where, feel full of smiling eye, warm to the bone, not all alone. How do you like that?
As you can see, the typical American family isn't so typical anymore. A bike for your 9-year-old son? Well, it's not usually a problem, but for this family,